Will this be the actual website, printwarcraft.com?
Yes, it will.
So keep that in your favorites, printwarcraft.com. Check them out as soon as they become available. Get your prints, and back to you guys at the desk.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Joe. Lots of great exhibitors out there. But now joining us here at the DirecTV BlizzCon desk is Rob Pardo, the Executive Vice President of Game Design at Blizzard. Rob, you broke a lot of big news yesterday about the brand new BattleNet, which will be coming first to StarCraft 2. One thing that I think a lot of people have been talking about is the idea now that fans will actually be able to create maps for StarCraft 2 and actually sell them on a marketplace and kind of create their own little business around StarCraft user-generated content, right?
Exactly. That was one of the big announcements we made. And the whole concept is really, you look at the Warcraft 3 mod community was really vibrant and actually spawned games that you see on other services now. Like a really good example is all the different tower defense games that you see, like on PlayStation Network, like Pixel Junk Monsters,
Yep. Right.
or you look at like Plants vs. Zombies. Really that game mechanic came out of the Warcraft 3 mod community. So we feel like, if we can do a marketplace where people can actually even put in more of a development budget against these sort of maps, you can almost start looking at StarCraft 2, as a development platform for people to make games.
Have you considered giving the StarCraft map community advanced access to the map creator before the game comes out?
Something we've talked about, like we haven't decided yet, but if the editor is at a good enough state and we feel like we can do it, we might be able to do it during the beta.
Right.
But at the very least, though, they would get it at release. And that's one of the things I announced, too, is that the marketplace isn't going to be live at launch.
Okay.
So it'll be something that's going to come probably like 6 to 12 months after launch.
Right.
So map creators will have plenty of time to kind of beta test maps, try things out, get used to the editor before they actually put anything up for sale.
Makes sense. I know one thing I noticed is that you had a slide in your presentation and you had a Counter-Strike graphic, and you were talking a little bit about that. I'm very involved in the Counter-Strike community and the mod community inside of that. What are some things that you learned from looking at what they've done?
Well, I mean, a lot of what we learned is just, if you can help enable map creators and amateur game designers,
Right.
They'll be able to make pretty amazing maps, or, get full-blown games for that matter.
Right.
And a lot of what we saw with Counter-Strike really already happened with Defense in the Ancients, which is the biggest mod that comes out of the Warcraft 3 community. I mean, especially when you go over to Asia, like 90% of the game rooms, when they're playing War 3, they're playing Defense in the Ancients.
Right.
So, it's just not as well known because we never really turned it into a box product like Counter-Strike did.
Excellent. All right, well, we are on Twitter, and we got a lot of Twitter questions for you, Rob. So if you guys have a Twitter question, you can send it to us at Jeff Keighley here from my account. Let's go to this one here, which comes from Daniel. And Daniel says, please ask Rob, what is he most excited about with all the new projects coming up, and why, if he can say? Now, you're obviously in charge of game design for all these Blizzard titles. What gets you most excited from a game design perspective about what's coming up?
That's like a really tough one, because like one of the things I love about my job is that any game I'm working on, I get really, really excited about that, which I think is one of the things that, hopefully makes me really effective at my job, is that, whether or not it's, like right now I'm doing a lot of work on BattleNet. Before that, I did a lot of the work on, the StarCraft 2 campaign. Those are both very exciting. And then, probably the thing that's most exciting to me right now is, the game that I'm most involved with, which is the unannounced MMO, which you're not going to be able to pull out of me today, but it's really, really, really cool.
So you are one of the superstars Mike talked about that's been assigned to make this project a reality?
Yeah, you're being kind. But yeah, I mean, the idea of the new team, though, I mean, it's a lot of the leadership came from the World of Warcraft team. So it's really exciting that we can take all the things we learn from actually making World of Warcraft and imagine what we would do if we got to do it all over again.
Now, everyone knows that it'll be in a new universe, so it's not just, World of StarCraft or something like that. Can you tell us a bit about, from an MMO perspective, you guys have done so much with World of Warcraft, you learned a lot from it. This MMO, I mean, are you really trying to pioneer sort of a new type of MMO with this game, or it's not just going to be, World of Warcraft reskinned to a new universe,
That's like a tricky question to try to get information about the MMO. What is that?
No, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to think, obviously, for you guys, everything you guys do, you like to push the limits, right?
Here's what I can say is I'll talk you through a little bit of like the process of even determining what it is.
Right.
Which is, it's really challenging. What should the next MMO be? So what we do, and we kind of do this with every time we're going to kick off a new game, but it's a little bit different this time, where I actually pulled, I did a whole bunch of different brainstorming meetings, and I did, like 9 random developers across the studio that are interested in being involved, and we just sit around the table and kind of pitch ideas at each other. And then, and then I do it with a new group, and then another group. And we kind of went through this whole list, like Obviously, you know, we kind of concepted out what, you know, a Universe of StarCraft game might look like.
Right.
We talked about what a World of Warcraft 2 game might look like. We talked about Diablo games. We talked about MMO RTSs. We talked about MMO FPSs. We talked about all kinds of different ideas. And then what happens is, you know, as those meetings progress, certain, you know, kind of certain ideas solidify and get more and more people excited. So it kind of just narrows down until suddenly you get a game or a game concept that everyone around the table is kind of nodding their head and everyone's excited.
Right.
Because what would happen previous to that is someone around the table would be like, yeah, I'm not really into that, or that's not that interesting. You know, like either, you know, one of our artists, one of our designers, programmers, whatever else, and then we finally came up with an idea that everyone's like, yeah, that's the game we should make.
How much has that changed? You know, you've been working on it for a little while now. Do you know what the game is and what the concept is? Are you deep into production, or is it a point now where things can still veer and change quite a bit?
We're at a phase now where, so like kind of our first year on it was very much kind of the technology, or build a lot of technology. And, you know, kind of the second year we started bringing in a lot more of the artists, start really developing out the concepts a lot more. And now I'm really hoping like this is going to be the big upcoming year where we really start putting a lot of game design and solidifying all the game systems, because we're starting to really prototype a lot of stuff, because there's enough technology, enough art now that we can kind of go to that next stage.
Wow, exciting.
In a related question, I mean, you were on the WoW team as well, and now you're on this team, and both those games took a very long time to put out. How do you design and plan for a game that you know is, you know, 5 years down the road?
Right. It's, well, you know, the important thing is what I feel like happens at a lot of studios is they try to design everything up front, and then they go out and have, you know, a production team do it to spec. And at Blizzard, that's not really the way we approach things. So I try to like first come up with what is kind of the big concepts. You know, what's really fun about the game, what's interesting. You know, if you look at something like World of Warcraft, you know, we were building off other MMOs, but at the same time, we had these concepts of like killing with a purpose. You know, we wanted to have, you know, really content driven by quests. You know, these are all things that we knew up front. We didn't necessarily know how many quests we're going to have. We didn't know how the quest systems would be designed, but we knew those were like the core concepts. You look at StarCraft 2, you know, we kind of did the same sort of things. You know, what are the things that we absolutely want to do with that game before we ever design a unit? And the units got designed, you know, like a year, 2 years later after, you know, kind of the initial kickoff. So you kind of just do it in phases. And, you know, the game becomes more and more kind of solid as you go along. And it's actually funny because I actually like more the end of the projects than the beginnings. Because the beginning of the project, it's all blue sky and everything's possible, which sounds really, really fun, right? But it means no one wants to make a decision. Because the moment you make your first decision means you just cut off a whole bunch of things that you can't do anymore. You know, so no one ever wants to make decisions at the beginning of the project.
Now, Rob, another question that's coming from Twitter, at Jeff Keeley. Kyle asks, when the new MMO comes out, what will make me still want to play World of Warcraft, and will there be a payment discount for having both? I'm sure you're probably going to talk about the business of it, but it's an interesting question, I think.
Yeah.
You have this huge community for World of Warcraft. So is the idea with the new MMO to move some of that community to this new MMO, or is it to appeal to a completely different audience? How are you thinking about it?
Again, it's kind of one of those things that the way we've always approached games at Blizzard is we just try to make the best games we can. You know, we're not necessarily thinking of the standpoint of, oh, we think 50% of the WoW audience will convert and this is how it's going to work. I mean, we don't really think like that. You know, imagine that WoW was done by another game company. You know, it wouldn't necessarily be about stealing those customers or not doing it. It's just, you know, make the best MMO we can. And, you know, if people continue to play WoW and we get a new audience playing the new MMO, that's great. If we cannibalize WoW, well, someone's going to eventually, so it might as well be us. But it's not so much like we're targeting the WoW fan base in any particular way.
Well, I mean, do you think there'll be a cannibalization? Because, you know, a lot of things that have been interesting with World of Warcraft is you keep maintaining, you know, 11.5 million people around the world playing it. One tweet that actually just came in from Cadwin says, will WoW see a complete update graphically-wise in conjunction with the new expansion? I think a lot of people are wondering, you know, you do these expansions, but is there ever going to be a complete overhaul of the game with, you know, all new graphics? Or how do you think about sort of the World of Warcraft beats going forward?
The way we were approaching graphic upgrades is kind of iteratively. You know, we're not really going to go in and just put in a whole new graphics engine one day. I mean, it'd actually be, I don't even know it would be possible at this point, because you have to recreate every piece of art you've ever seen in World of Warcraft through all the expansions. You know, so it kind of gets prohibitive. And the other thing we've kind of seen with other MMOs that have done this is, even though, like, you know, you might be able to do like a character with more polygons or with, you know, more shader technology or something like that, and it may be, you know, like theoretically better, but it's different. and people get very attached to their characters. And I've seen so many MMOs where they do a graphic update with theoretically better art, but people don't like it because their character doesn't look like they think it should look anymore. So what we're really trying to do is just kind of iteratively improve it, improve the water, improve the terrain, and kind of, each expansion we kind of make some graphical upgrades to the game.
That was one of the comments we had, is that the people who are playing Cataclysm, that the water looks so much better. Is that one of the changes that you made?
Yeah, that's one of the changes we made.
Interesting.
New water. Now, let me ask you about one thing that in the MMO community, there's been a lot of talk about the new Star Wars MMO and how they're doing full voice for all the characters.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because you guys are known for doing great stories in your games. Do you think, full voice is something for like the new MMO that you're thinking about? Doing storytelling in a more sort of cinematic way?
Well, I think it's a really admirable feature, and obviously there's the opportunity to make the game much more immersive when there's that much voice in the game and that many characters. But I think there's going to be a challenge with it though too, because we considered it. But one of the things that happens when you have that much voice, it really kind of limits your ability to iterate on the content and make changes on the fly, because you have to do the voice recording really far in advance.
Yeah.
So if you look like our quest designers in the last 2 weeks of the beta, they're still making changes and adding new quests. You can't do that if you're going to do all the voice acting ahead of time too. So I think there's kind of pros and cons to it.
All right, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Yeah. Excellent. All right, well, let's head back to Twitter here and see if there's another question. This is a question from Imelet, and he says, please ask Rob why Blizzard are endorsing commercial StarCraft 2 mods while they have just outlawed commercial World of Warcraft mods. Is that true?
One more time? I didn't hear
question is, are you endorsing commercial StarCraft 2 mods, but you just outlawed commercial World of Warcraft mods? Is that true?
I don't recall outlawing commercial World of Warcraft. Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know, okay. Well, yeah, because, the thing with that is that, we're obviously not making any money off people that are doing third-party things for WoW, and it's kind of a... it's not really allowed to go out and make stuff around World of Warcraft without licensing it from us. It's really us just protecting our intellectual property, which I'm sure, you're familiar with DirecTV with kind of all the same concepts.
Yep, absolutely.
There was one question someone had in our community, nice, was there's achievements that are going to be they're going to be in battle.net, they're going to be, across your entire account. There have been titles and rewards that are associated in WoW with achievements. Is that going to be something that will be accessible in other games as well, or maybe there will be some type of prize for battle.net achievements?
Well, the approach we're kind of taking on achievements is within each individual game, there'll be kind of rewards that make sense for that game. Right. So in the case of StarCraft 2, it's going to be kind of the 2D avatars and decals. Yeah. Within World of Warcraft, it might be pets, it might be titles, things like that. Right. So I'm not sure what it'll be for Diablo 3, but we'll kind of do the approach for that. As far as the account-wide achievements, that stuff we'll probably talk about a little more in the future once we talk more about what real-life ID profiles look like and then what that system will look like. But we do have some cool ideas for that too.
Excellent.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rob. It's great to have you here live at BlizzCon. And now we're going to head out to the field. Joe Garcia is with someone else here in the convention center. Joe, who do you have?
Hey, guys. We're here live on the floor, and we're at Fingerprints with Ed Freeze. Ed, what exactly are these things? Because I'm seeing people carrying them around, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly you need to do to get one of these.
What we do is pretty amazing. We will make your World of Warcraft character with your gear, exactly the way you look in the game, as a statue. You go to our website, fingerprints.com, just type in the name of your character. We pull up a 3D render of your guy with the data out of the armory, and our 3D printing machines will print in color your character exactly the way you want to have it.
You just said it prints that. It's in 3D. How does it print it? A picture is printed. This is an actual statue. You can touch it. It's 3D.
Yeah, these machines, this machine behind us is a 3D color printer. There's only one company in the world that makes these devices, and they basically lay down a layer of plaster powder and then print ink into it. And it just does it over and over and over again, 250 layers per inch as it builds this up. Something like this would take about 12 hours to print. And when it comes out of the printer, it looks like this. It's a beautiful color thing.
You said it takes 12 hours to make something like that. I see you have a smaller one over here. How long does something like that take to print?
So this is what we call a figure pet. These take about, well, the printer runs about an inch an hour. So this would be an hour, hour and a half to make.
For that little guy.
Yeah. And
where can people get these?
It's all on figureprints.com. Go to our website. You can create your character. These are $129.95. It's a great deal for a beautiful statue. These are $29.95. These are limited edition sculptures. And
Are they only available here at BlizzCon, or can they still get those online?
there's a special Murky we have over in the case that's